Hi, my name is Neil Darling. I'm a principal here at RingLeader, and I am here to do an overview on RingLeader's services specifically for ShoreTel. RingLeader is headquartered in the DC metro area. We're actually in Northern Virginia. We've been in business since 2003. We're a leader in ShoreTel SIP trunking, and we are the founder or the inventor of ShoreTel native SIP trunking that dates back to version 2007. Our network, our ShoreTel enabled, Mitel enabled network, is located in two key locations, one outside of DC in Equinix, and the other in Santa Clara, California, at a facility called Internet. We talk a lot about what we consider the ShoreTel saga, at least as ShoreTel has adopted native SIP trunking, and there's a timeline here which I think is really valuable. ShoreTel was committed really exclusively to selling POTS and PRI via their hardware-based switches. And SIP initially, even with RingLeader, didn't work as well as it could or as it should, but based on some requirements for additional hardware, ShoreTel could get SIP trunking working on the platform. But in 2007, that's where the saga begins, but ShoreTel did support native SIP trunking, which really just means no hardware required. And that all changed in Las Vegas with myself and Todd Holsenbeck, who introduced the concept of native SIP trunking to the ShoreTel community. So really some key dates. Pre-2007, it was really POTS and PRI. So that was terminating SIP to an IAD, Internet Access Device, and then that would do a handoff of POTS or PRI via like a T1K, or in Europe an E1K, and that was the only way that SIP could be delivered. The other option that came online was through a company called Ingate, and their product called the Siperator that allowed delivery of SIP through an SBC that was purchased. ShoreTel eventually OEM'd the device and had a ShoreTel label, was on the ShoreTel parts list, and they up till 2007, that was the only way to purchase SIP trunking on ShoreTel. But as of 2007, like I said, native SIP trunking with ShoreTel happened, and then I would say by 2010, it became very mainstream, meaning large companies were using SIP trunking to realize significant savings. But it really wasn't until version 13 came around 2013 that we reached a point that we call SIP and PRI parity. And that meant that everything that you could do on a PRI could be done on SIP. And in fact, when you combine that with native SIP, it made it much better because there was no limitation of 23 call paths. There was really no expensive hardware that needed to be purchased. As of 2016, Etherspeak was the former company, became RingLeader. It was purchased by RingLeader, and they developed the Carrier Connect. We call the 3 C's in E: Carrier Connect, Crowd Connect, Crisis Connect, and Enterprise Connect. So what's required to connect to a ShoreTel? Well, the Carrier Connect services is the native SIP trunking services, and since 2007, really nothing has changed. It's the same approach that we've used, and that's basically we can connect over the internet or via MPLS connection. Generally, we see our customers using the internet. So if you have an internet that is adequate, and these days, it seems that the internet has gotten increasingly more reliable, that customers of all types, small, medium, and large, are defaulting now to internet-based SIP communications to the cloud. So we are native. There's no additional hardware. SIP licensing is the only thing that is required to be purchased through your Mitel or / ShoreTel reseller, but you can get native SIP trunking licenses right out of your ShoreTel on 45-day trial basis for no charge. The native connections have, as I mentioned, PRI feature parity, which means that we can do everything from the call groups, the work groups, the Meet Me conferencing, everything that you can do with a PRI, you can actually do more so now with ShoreTel on hardware-based switches and also the vSwitch. As I mentioned, connecting to RingLeader is as simple as doing a VPN setup. And the way that we handle that is we will just do a web meeting with you, just much like we're doing today, and we will help you configure any one of 30 different firewalls, and we will follow the ShoreTel application note that's been approved by ShoreTel to connect to the appropriate version that you have of the ShoreTel Director, or now the Mitel system. Lastly, we guarantee that's 100% satisfaction to all ShoreTel Mitel customers. So if you're not happy for any reason, within 30 days of trying it, we'll rip up your contract in tiny little pieces, and you will pay nothing for signing up with the service. So here's some case studies, and these case studies are really done to show different things. In this particular case, the Georgia Poison Control Center, its mission is really to provide, emergency services, emergency communication services in the event of a poison outbreak in the state of Georgia. With that in mind, they have a system where they leverage existing ShoreTel system for day-to-day business, but they have the capability with the ShoreTel contact center to take up to 800 simultaneous call paths, so that they can provide services and push out, out to their larger network of regional offices to be able to respond to a poison emergency, a chemical or biological attack or incident that may happen, and they want to be able to have up to 800 concurrent call paths that is actually provided through RingLeader. That's done through ShoreTel hardware-based switches that are cascaded together. It was initially an MPLS connection for 3 or 4 years, and it migrated over to the internet. And RingLeader is a key vendor for the Georgia Poison Control Center to help them really meet the challenge of their mission. Let's hopeful that they never have to do it, but in the case that they do, they needed something that was very much capable of doing 800 concurrent call paths, and that's something that we've been able to bring them for many years now. Karma Automotive used to be formerly known as Fisker, is an international leader in the electrical vehicle industry, particularly with sports cars. So they're really focused on high-performance electric vehicles. I say formerly known as because they actually went through a reorganization and had filed for reorganization under federal law. Really, the focus on emerging out of that reorganization was to demonstrate that they could consolidate their costs, and that those costs also apply to the operational expense associated with their ShoreTel system. So their requirements were to have, number one, we needed to support international direct dial numbers. They also wanted a centralized billing so there would be no waste. So they were leveraging SIP trunking to enable them to have shared minute bundles that didn't provide any individual line charge, didn't require any hardware, and really consolidated their business as if all the locations were in the same location. And that's really, really important. So one bucket for minutes for all calls, national and international calling, and really their focus was on controlling operational expense. And we've been able to deliver almost 70% savings over POTS and PRI, which really helped them emerge, in a small part, I imagine, but helped them emerge with a reorganization plan that helped them consolidate their costs. Lastly, we have Online Training Academy, really interesting, a smaller customer, but they wanted to leverage some functions that were not in the ShoreTel. In this particular case, they also needed local and international numbers. They wanted to require call recording. They wanted a record of all the calls that went to their ShoreTel system, but they were offsite. So we basically, with their permission and our configuration, are recording every inbound and outbound call that goes to the OTA, Online Training Academy's ShoreTel. In addition, they were leveraging the RingLeader Crowd Connect conferencing, and that is a conferencing that we'll talk about, but it's kind of a unique, not only a traditional conference where you can dial in and use a PIN, but our conferencing has the option for actually dialing out. So when you have a meeting you schedule with your 10 or 15 or 20 participants, and at the given time, the phone rings. And if it doesn't get answered right away, it actually will call the participant back to make sure that they show up and they're attending the meeting at the time specified and they don't show up late. So, and then lastly, all the reps utilize the RingLeader fax over IP since it's 100% reliable, and from fax machine and fax server, it's 100% secure as well. Features and benefits. So let's talk a little bit about this. We have really 4 areas: Carrier Connect, Enterprise Connect, Crowd Connect, and Crisis Connect. Carrier Connect is really primarily our SIP-based connection options, our conferencing, our fax, the things that are more traditional from what you would expect from a SIP cloud provider. Our Enterprise Connect is our VoIP offering, our voice over internet offering, our cloud-based phone system, but it's pretty innovative in that we are really a leader in the space in that we're providing a means for customers to not only use their organizations, but we're providing, very much like Facebook Messenger, the ability to have a client that can be distributed via text message and PIN very rapidly with short-term subscriptions. And you can also not only use mobile phones, you can actually use hard IP phones, meaning traditional IP SIP phones can be part of that. So it really allows for 501c3s and 501c4s, organizations that can lobby a very flexible platform for dynamic phone service. Lastly, we have Crisis Connect, and this is a subscription-based service, very innovative, that leverages not only the Crowd Connect and the outbound conferencing capabilities of it to connect people, large groups of people, very dynamically into a conference, but we also provide SMS messaging and the ability for organizations to employ mass SMS messaging in just-in-time basis. And lastly, we have a third pillar of it is a function for outbound IVR, which is just an automated attendant that would call your customers very dynamically and give them information and give them a menu of 1, 2, and 3. And the customer can connect those people back to whether it's their support department, their sales department, their accounting department, based on whatever they want to use it for. They could use it as a way to disseminate direction through an outbound automated attendant that the customers can use whenever they want. So Carrier Connect. Some key features: it's native and secure, even on ShoreTel. It allows for internet faxing, 911 services, centralized call recording, inbound conferencing. It's very traditional, toll-free service, and nationwide and international DID presence. So we can cover North America as well as large parts of Europe, and all parts of the world, parts of Asia. Some capability for Hong Kong and in China. So it really gives a lot of flexibility to how a ShoreTel could be distributed around the globe and allowing those calls to be consolidated on the RingLeader network. What's the pricing? So as I said, the way to kind of think of this is a bundle or a bucket. What we provide is no cost for call paths. You're simply buying a shared minute bundle that the ShoreTel users for every inbound and outbound call. You pick the amount of minutes that you're going to use, and you can see on this, from small business to enterprise, it's less than a penny a minute for inbound and outbound calling, and there's no additional charges associated with it. When you reach the limit of your bundle, there is an overage fee, but it's very, very minimal. And you get to a point where you have to go to the next bundle, next level up, you can do that. But there's no limits on the number of call paths beyond the micro bundle. From small business, professional, premier, or even enterprise, we have this. There's no limitation on the number of simultaneous call paths, and we also include free phone numbers with each bundle that you may have. So we have phone numbers, conference bridge, and faxing. You're saying, and what's flexible about the phone numbers is that even though you may have several LATAs that you deal with, several locations that you have phone numbers or POTS or PRI, we can port those in, or we can assign new numbers in those areas, and you're able to leverage those. We have the conference bridge functionality. Again, it gives the users the ability to have a personalized conference bridge, toll-free based conference bridge, and they can, when they call that conference bridge, they'll hear the customer's company name. So it's very unique in that way, and it really bolts on to a ShoreTel, so you don't necessarily have to buy that feature if you don't want, and it allows you to have really hundreds and hundreds of people that could be on the phone at the same time. And then there's faxing. So we have fax to email, fax to analog telephone adapter, as well as fax to server. And our faxing is 100% secure. So faxing is a very popular option still. But when you combine that with security and the needs of regulations that are out there that require organizations to maintain security, whether it be the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, Graham-Leach-Bliley, other things that require that information to stay confidential, that's the only way that we deliver it. Also, above and beyond what a PRI can do, with the numbers, we have the capability to auto forward just certain numbers, and we charge on a number by number basis, but you can make sure out of the group of numbers you may have, say you have 100 numbers, 10 of them are absolutely critical, and you can redirect those 10 numbers to 10 unique destinations. Secondly, we have an option for what we call disaster recovery, and this is kind of a standalone offering in that if you have a very redundant remote office, but you want the ability to have SIP on a native connection, we provide that service with 3 call paths, a local number, and a small bucket of included minutes for $40 a month. Because there's no hardware involved, we can connect to that ShoreTel and provide a basic connectivity option in case those POTS or PRI goes down. We can deliver it over the customer's internet connection. Lastly, we have crowd voice continuity. We used to call this Shadowbox, and really what it is a mirror of the customer's ShoreTel, which includes all the users, all their extensions, all their DIDs, all the IVRs or automated attendants, all the work groups. Everything is not an exact mirror because we don't have the same level of functionality that you get with your ShoreTel. But should your system go down, this is activated on a mobile phone. So each user can just activate the app. It notifies us, and then we no longer would direct that call down to that user. That user would automatically activate the cloud, and we will utilize sending that call directly to that user's mobile phone. And then when they don't want to do it anymore, meaning the ShoreTel's back up, they just simply close the app, and the calls go right back to the ShoreTel. On an enterprise level, we have a failover option as well that leverages that Crowd Connect or the continuity options that can be activated by the system administrator or somebody authorized. When they log in, they can basically select failover, they slide the button to the right, and no longer will calls go to the ShoreTel. They go to the mobile phones of the users, and that's how it's activated. And it's really a great insurance policy for the customers in that we will provide a mirror of what they have on their ShoreTel in the cloud. We'll bypass the ShoreTel for, could be a day, could be a week, could be longer than that, to keep the company in business. And that's one of the flexibilities that you get with SIP, and particularly SIP with a native and encrypted option. From a more traditional side, we can basically hone a customer system to 2 locations, and it's very seamless where the customer would provide 2 trunk groups with identical DNS routing. And if one internet provider on one side, one firewall goes down, one ShoreTel switch malfunctions, we can automatically direct those inbound calls to the secondary site, and the customers would not realize that there was a problem, and that leaves the ShoreTel administrator or the network engineers to focus on the primary site, but everything would stay up in the sense that all inbound calls would still get into the system. Enterprise Connect, again, this is our VoIP offering. It provides both group text, chats, and alerts. It's encrypted. We do leverage the GPS, so the RingLeader, whoever's in charge, can actually see where all the users are. It does work on hard and soft phone. We do allow media, meaning pictures and videos, to be shared between users, just much like you can do on Facebook Messenger, and share that also with Facebook or Instagram. We do have the Crowd Connect offering, which is instant conferencing, so you can put not only those users can they text back and forth, but if the RingLeader wants, you can push a button and everybody's phone rings and they're into a conference bridge. You can enable for outbound calling for that group. So let's say that you had a rally or you had a meeting or you had some other things going on and you wanted those people to make outbound calls, maybe perhaps for fundraising for a 501c3. The RingLeader right from the app can change the caller ID to show the not-for-profit and the caller ID. And then lastly, all those calls could be recorded in the cloud. So every inbound and outbound call that goes either to the hard phone or the soft phone of the Enterprise Connect client can actually, from the RingLeader's selection, call recording can be enabled. So you have a record of those calls, much like you can do in a call center. Enterprise Connect, has very flexible pricing as well. It's $10 per user per month, but we also have weekly pricing. We have daily pricing, so $25 a week includes a bunch of users, or you can have unlimited calling, unlimited inbound, outbound calling for $2 per user per day. So you say, hey, I just need this for a week for our company meeting, or I need it for this event, or I need it for our conference. You can leverage our Enterprise Connect very, very uniquely with a very short-term contract. Crowd Connect is on-demand conferencing, but not only does it provide you the traditional conference of a toll-free number, perhaps a PIN and a personalized bridge, meaning the bridge is customized with your company name when people sit on hold, but it also provides the ability for those conferences to be scheduled and for you to offer very dynamic, what we consider meet me conferencing, where the conference bridge essentially calls the users at the appropriate time, and everybody could be put into a conference. So not only can you schedule them, but they can also be very dynamic, and it's very, very interesting capability when you can combine that with your ShoreTel to give a conferencing on steroids. It gives you a very, very strong tool to have when you become a RingLeader partner or customer. And lastly, the Crisis Connect. This is, again, a subscription service, and it leverages the very dynamic way that we do conferencing. So it allows you to bring a voice in the event of a crisis that may happen. You can not only communicate by mass, SMS messages, our broadcast urgent message service, but you can also put people into a conference bridge and mute them if you need to explain things a little bit better than you can do via mass text. And lastly, we have the outbound IVR, the outbound automated attendant, that allows customers to speak with your staff. It calls them and puts them into the automated attendant, and allows for that event. You can very dynamically set this up and provide different options for them on an outbound basis, so that they get their questions answered, they get informed, and they can communicate with your team to deal with that crisis that may come up. So again, this is an option, a subscription option for customers, not necessarily tied to their phone system or whether they even have a ShoreTel, but it's allowed us to leverage our capabilities and make those available as a subscription-based service for the customers. And they activate the subscription just when they need it, but having access to the tools is as low as $99 a month. Requires a little bit of setup. It requires some training, but it's a very powerful option for customers that may need capability in the event of a crisis. So we say, hey, let's get started together. You can visit ringleader.co, and you can download our product catalog, which is a picture of it is here. But you can also get a quote if you want. You can actually go to ringleader.co/quoting, and you can do your own quote right now. And if you want, there's a chat button. You can chat with one of our sales specialists, and they'll help you in any way, shape, or form that you need. And as we've been partnering with ShoreTel Forums, we have some what we call super VARs that are available to answer any questions or answer even maybe super technical questions that you need based on different versions of ShoreTel, or maybe something that we can't handle. But I'd encourage you to reach out to our team here, our sales engineering team, and ask your questions. Thanks very much. Oh, lastly, most important option here is that we have a limited time sign-up offer for customers that are interested in trying SIP trunking. It's absolutely, positively 100% free. Allows you to have up to 5 call paths, and it's a $250 value. It's free. We apply it once you get set up. It takes an hour to get set up. You'll have 5 call paths. We'll give you a local number for inbound calling, and you can test the heck out of this. You can hook it up to your lab or your production system. You can test a bunch of things working in concert with our sales engineers. You can make sure that everything works like it should, and you can get the advantage of knowing how native SIP trunking works on your ShoreTel Mitel system. This offer expires at 12/31, but all you have to do is request it. And if you want, you can call us directly. You can message us on the website at ringleader.co, or you can also fill out a form on the website for registering for the free trial. They just need some basic information about your ShoreTel, and then they need an hour on a web meeting, and you'll be good to go. Thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us at sales@ringleader.co. Thank you.